Okay, at 6 o'clock, I'll call the June 4th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance with the Mayor Pro Tem lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adrian, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mignot,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
and Councilmember Paddock.
Present.
Before we get to audience communication, we neglected to put on the agenda reading the proclamation that we do annually in honor of Pride Month. Is there any objection to amending the agenda, add that proclamation?
No objection.
Okay, with that, we'll get to that after audience communication before the presentations. Would anyone in chambers like to address council tonight? Going once, twice, 3 times. No one wanted to. Anyone online? I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, we'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. That brings us to the proclamation from the city of Mill Creek. Whereas equality of opportunity and freedom from discrimination are among the basic inalienable moral rights of every person necessary for the development and exercise of our most vital capacities and preconditions of human flourishing. And whereas our nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes that every person has been created equal, that each has rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of law. And whereas over the course of our nation's history, the sphere of its moral recognition has expanded to include many persons previously marginalized, disenfranchised, and subjugated, yet this recognition remains imperfect and this expansion incomplete. And whereas 2015's landmark Supreme Court decision guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states was a historic victory for LGBT Americans, ensuring dignity for same-sex couples and greater equality across state lines. Whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus Pride Month is observed annually in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising and to recognize the impact that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals have had on history locally, nationally, and internationally. And whereas June 2024 marks the 54th anniversary of annual LGBTQ plus Pride Parade observances, now therefore, I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, to hereby proclaim June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. Signed this 4th day of June 2024. Okay, and with that, we'll move on to our presentations. Welcome the representatives from the Sno-Isle Libraries. Martin, you going to introduce?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to introduce Lois Langer-Thompson, who's the Executive Director of Sno-Isle Libraries. If you all didn't know, Lois will be retiring this summer. I've had a chance to work with Lois for the past year and a half, so probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years since the end of 2022, when we first met. So I just want to thank Lois for all the times, all the meetings that we had together, just to update each other on what's happening in both of our agencies. So thank you, Lois.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As Martin mentioned, I'm Lois Langer-Thompson, Executive Director of Sno-Isle Libraries. Joining me today are Darlene Weber, the Mill Creek Library Manager, R.D. Burley, who's the Assistant Director of Facilities, Safety, and Security, and online we have Vanessa Gutierrez, who's our Community Engagement Manager. So first, I want to congratulate you on the successful State of the City luncheon in April and the City Chat Open House earlier this month. We're excited about the ongoing work and look forward to the future of Mill Creek as you update the city's comprehensive plan for the next 20 years. No small undertaking, and as Martin has been keeping me up to date on that. We stand ready as your partner and supporter in these efforts. Last year, I provided an update on our library district's progress and expressed our gratitude for your support in advocating for funding for the library repair project. The total project cost is around $1.3 million, funded by Sno-Isle Libraries and the $200,000 grant from the state of Washington. And we want to thank our state cute. Cuter than me, for sure. Hello. I want to thank our state delegation for helping secure those $200,000 in funding. Sno-Isle Libraries is committed to creating inspiring spaces which are welcoming, inclusive, and easy to use. The Mill Creek Library Repair Project ensures the library remains a vibrant and inviting hub, a place where residents continue to gather for learning, reading, and exchanging ideas. The repair project began yesterday, just June 3rd, and is expected to last 3 months. Key priorities include floor repairs to ensure the safety and longevity of the building, installation of a new heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system to create community resilience during extreme weather conditions. Following this project, the Mill Creek Library will be designated a Snohomish County Cooling, Warming, and Clean Air Center, which is going to be very welcome, somewhat unfortunately. We will also have updated ADA accessible restrooms with modern fixtures to create functional spaces, and an additional restroom will be added in the children's area. As you know, we have a very engaged community, and we are taking proactive steps to minimize any inconvenience due to the construction, including increased bookmobile presence here in the community, local book-a-librarian sessions, and signage and communication to keep customers informed about the progress, the timelines, and alternate locations nearby. We appreciate our collaboration with City Manager Martin Yamamoto, Mike Todd, Scott Harder, and Jody Hawkins, who ensure this work is well coordinated with the city. As the project nears completion, staff will be in touch to invite you for a tour of the library before its reopening. Also, during our conversations on the repair project, I've been approached with questions about our capital project framework. As I mentioned before, Sno-Isle Libraries is committed to creating inspiring spaces which are welcoming, inclusive, and easy to use. Each community is unique, and our goal is to reimagine our libraries to reflect and align with each community. Our capital projects framework was developed to provide the structure and strategy to guide capital improvement work. It considers the realities of our facility conditions, communities, district resources, opportunities, and the key consideration of funding. And just a note today, hopefully you also received an email that we have purchased property to build the Mariner Community Campus in partnership with Everett Housing Authority. So we continue to make progress on our capital plan. We've also completed 2 of our 6 current capital projects. As the other 4 priorities are completed, we look forward to continued conversations on collaboration around the Mill Creek Library. So now I'm going to ask Darlene Weber, our library manager, to share what our Mill Creek Library staff are planning for the summer with all of you.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here. Good to see you all. Yeah, again, super busy. I will say our adult programming will be able to continue without pause, in great thanks to the city, because we are able to use the City Hall North to do all of our book groups, our writers group, and this Saturday, our writers series, our annual writers series begins. It's a year already. Can you believe that? And so, so thank you for that. We are going to continue to partner with the Senior Center and the YMCA to continue with our adult programs. So those will continue without pause. Our children's staff, Mitra and Ella, will be doing story time at some of the other libraries, and their small cult following is going to follow them, right? So they're going to go to those other libraries with them. I'm thrilled that Takuya will be able to continue his Japanese story time, which is the highest average, has the highest average attendance of all of our world languages. And he'll be doing that twice a month at Uncle Tio. Let's see, so our adult programs, our children's programs, we'll be doing a lot of outreach. You'll see us in the community more and more, for instance, the Fun Run, the Mill Creek Festival, National Night Out. As Lois mentioned, the bookmobile will be coming twice a month. And so along with that, over at the amphitheater, we'll be doing 2 story times and a craft. Our librarians will be sitting out at the picnic tables for Book a Librarian and any reference questions. So we're just going to have a lot of fun with that. Let's see, I will mention that on the bookmobile, of course, you can have, people can register for cards, they can return their materials, there will be a small browsing collection. And I really appreciate, as Lois said, Scott and Jody and Keegan for working with us to make that happen.
So as you know, that Mill Creek staff is creative, hardworking, and innovative as they continue to serve the community. So on a personal note, as I get ready to retire, it has been an honor to serve this community, and I'm confident in the future of Sno-Isle under new leadership, which should be announced in early July. Thank you for the time this evening. Darlene and I would be pleased to answer any questions you have about the Mill Creek Library or the Sno-Isle Libraries District.
Thank you for the presentation. Questions? Councilmember Steckler.
I just had one question on the bookmobile. It's a request and it may not be possible, but I thought I'd just throw it out there. We have our Party in the Parks events this summer, as well as a National Night Out. These are extremely well attended by families and especially kids. So if there was an opportunity to have a bookmobile on site during one of those events, I think it would be great exposure and a lot of questions could be asked. I just wanted to throw that suggestion out there. You can have my parking spot.
So thank you for that. Yes, we are going to have the bookmobile at the Fun Run. And I'm not sure, we're trying to get it at the Mill Creek Festival and the National Night Out, but for sure we've got the first one. Yeah.
Right, you're way ahead of me.
Right with you. We're right with you.
Other questions, comments? Councilmember Cavalier.
Just a quick comment to Lois and wish her well in all her future endeavors and what a pleasure it's been to work with in this field, someone that I would call a pro. So
Thank you.
job well done. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. It is a little bit with mixed feelings that I leave because it has been, it really has been the best job. And so I'm excited for the new person, but leaving happily, but also a little bit with some sadness too. Yeah, thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I had some comments. So I just want to thank all of you for all the work you're doing on this. And I know for me, I'm excited the work is going to be done. I'm sad I'm not going to see you every other day all summer because that's when we're usually in the library and Cora reads books so fast that I feel like I live in the library with you during the summer months. And so I'll be sad that I don't see you as often, but I'm looking forward to all the new upgrades. The community is really going to appreciate them. And thank you for all you're doing to coordinate. And I do know that I've been seeing emails to remind me to change my location for where I'm going to pick up my books. So I know those are going out to remind people. And I did see the one that came out reminding everybody the library's last day and to come down and get as many books as you could check out. So thank you for being proactive and getting the information out to everyone. And I look forward to seeing all the renovations and getting back in there again when things are done after the summer. So thank you.
Thank you. We are encouraging everyone to have a staycation and visit our other 22 libraries. You can go out to Darrington, Camino, get out on and Whidbey Island. There's some beautiful places to visit with our libraries. So we encourage people to do that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you and good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Martin, you can introduce our next presentation?
Yes, Mayor, just going to be really brief. Carol Ohlfs, who's the principal park planner at Snohomish County. Also with Snohomish County, Tom Teagan, who's the director of conservation and natural resources. So Tom, thanks for joining us. In the final, I remember this because I've talked to some of you online. So Kate, over the phone. So Kate Van Gent, who's the vice president of the Seattle Metro Pickleball Association. Welcome, Kate, and the group that you brought here. So here she is. They're here to support the Snohomish County's project. So I'll hand it over to Councilmember Cavalier, who wanted to say a few words before they start the presentation.
Thank you, City Manager. Just a couple of quick words. Several years ago, many members of the now famed pickleball community not only reached out to me, but I'm sure many of you, and since then, they have been quite active in our community. They've gone so far in its advocacy that it's now the official state sport of the state of Washington. I've even seen license plates out there with pickleball on it, so kudos to all your hard work. What you're about to see in tonight's presentation is really an opportunity to create a partnership to fill the void that has what we've now deemed as lacking in the city. So I'm not going to sit here and chat all night. I think Carolyn's going to do a great job. So at this time I'll introduce Carolyn Ohlfs, who's my coworker at the county and the parks planner. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm Carol Ohlfs, Principal Park Planner at Snohomish County Parks, and I have with me on the screen here Tom Tigan. He's the Director of Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, oversees the Parks Division. And if it's okay with you, Tom, I'll just kind of go through my presentation. I'll let you go after me. All right.
So Carol, I'm gonna share my screen. It's I'm having some issues with the system, so I'm gonna share my screen and you can just tell me next slide when I do.
That sounds good. So yeah, the first slide here is going to just show the title of my presentation, which is a briefing to you guys. I wanted to let you all know that Snohomish County Parks applied for a grant in your guys' neighborhood here at Martha Lake Airport Park. We applied for the Youth Athletic Facilities Grant for pickleball courts added into the already developed park, which is in the Mill Creek Muga. So if you go to the next slide, the map. So on the red circle there is the Martha Lake Airport Park, which is just north of Martha Lake to the west of Mill Creek. It is in the municipal urban growth area for Mill Creek. And then I also circled down below Tambark Creek Park, which is a past city-county partnership for park acquisition in the past. So I just want to share that. Going forward to the next slide. Yep, so I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of the grant. And so the timeline on this is that we submitted the grant in May 1st, and I received a bunch of letters of support from this community, the public, and the elected officials, and spoke with staff about the feasibility of this and whether this is a good fit for the MUGA for Mill Creek. And so it seemed like it was, even though I've already submitted it, I wanted to let you guys know that we have this in process. We don't know what the outcome of the grant will be yet. So the evaluation period is August 1st through 30th this year. And then the RCO, the State Recreation Conservation Office, will release a preliminary ranked list. And so at that time, maybe I could come back and give you guys an update on whether or not we know if the park project will be going forward. But I also wanted to share the public outreach summary for this project. A lot of your constituents probably came to participate in the project outreach. And just a little update on what our design progress was. Next slide. All right, so don't need to read all of this here, but this is a little overview. So the big picture is that the grant project includes mostly the big part of the project is these 8 new pickleball courts, which are the green and blue in the picture. And we're proposing to kind of set them right in the middle of a current green space where there's a sculpture. We can move that sculpture to the side and put it next to the existing parking lot and load and unload area. There's another north of this area, a larger parking lot with over 100 spaces. It's close to the bathrooms, the playground, and other amenities and the trails. And so it actually fits really nicely in there, right in between the critical area buffers, and seems like a really great fit for this project. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. The timeline on this project is that we're going for grants and fundraising this year. We do have it in our Snohomish County Parks budget and CIP that will be hopefully approved by the end of this year to fund this project with the grant funding. And then next year we would pursue design and permitting, and then the following year when that grant funding is available to us, we would start construction. And the estimated budget for the grant project is the $1,146,000 that we applied for as a grant, with matching funds from local county sources for $938,700. So the big picture grant project at the park there is $2 million. We also have plans to update the playground at Martha Lake Airport, which is a separate project in our CIP. So there's some funding in there as well. On to the next project. So I wanted to give a quick public outreach summary for this project. We hosted 2 open houses and had 62 attendees come out to McCollum Park to look at the poster boards and talk to us, to give us a lot of good feedback on if 8 was the right number of courts, if the location that we were proposing, the pros and cons of what we were proposing. We also had 382 online survey responses and 13 letters of support. In general, most people that took the survey said that pickleball was a good fit at MLA. That's the big green bar on that bottom left graphic. We also had in-house, parks and recreation maintenance and rangers and operations workshops to talk about the feasibility of adding this to the park. Go ahead and go to the next slide. What do people like to do now at Martha Lake Airport? These things could remain there. It has our first skate park in the county park system, and that's still there. So people love skateboarding, walking, observing nature, the dog park, playing sports, the playground, family time, relaxing, and picnicking. Quite a diverse array of activities there. And when we asked, are there any activities you would like to do in the future? In the context of us proposing a pickleball project, everyone said pickleball. They also said, and we heard them, that playground improvements at this park are really important. And if we could swing it, if it becomes available, they would love to see some additional basketball courts, skate park expansion, and even more dog park opportunities. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just wanted to also let you know that this desire for pickleball courts was the #1 key theme of our online surveys in the open-ended responses. As far as concerns and suggestions for the proposals, the big issues that we heard were around the safety entrance to the park. I'll have a slide later on to show you guys, but there's a undeveloped portion of the park property to the north of the developed park, and we were thinking at first that would be a great spot to put pickleball, just kind of pop it in there and activate that site, put some trails around it and whatnot. And what we heard from the public outreach was that it was actually more important to folks that this be located within the already developed part of the park because it was closer to the amenities. And then when we combined that with the fact that we wouldn't have to do all of bringing utilities and whatnot to all that undeveloped area, it made a lot of sense financially, and then it fit on the site plan just right. So we heard everybody say that, the playgrounds and updating the existing play equipment and making sure that there was a safe access with traffic calming measures or sidewalk improvements along the entrance, that was kind of more important and just as important as these new pickleball facilities. So we made sure to include that actually in the grant application. You can go along to the next slide. And this is a quick overview. You can kind of see the big red line there is 146th Street Southwest. So to the north of it was that potential active amenity and loop trail area that's currently undeveloped. And then to the south is the developed park. It's kind of long and skinny. It used to be an airport. So yeah, where we're proposing, there's also, it's hard to see on the slide here, but there's a brownish blobby there in the middle that says unused paving. And that's an area that is that drop-off zone in the first picture I showed on the slide deck of paving that's, was developed, but it hasn't been open to the public for a while. So adding additional active amenities down there in the southern part of the site seems like it would make a great use of already existing pavement, which is a win. Next slide, just a couple more here. Wanted to share, so we ended up having 2 surveys. The second survey said, we had these 2 alternatives, develop the north side or develop the south side. And alternative 1 was the south side. Wait a second. Alternative 1 was the north side, alternative 2 was the south side. So alternative 2 is more cost effective. It is closer to the bathrooms. It would be faster for the county to implement it, and it's a good use of existing park space. So it ended up getting quite a few more votes here with that blue line. Let's go on down to the next slide. And I just wanted to share a little bit more in detail, this one and the next one. So this one shows in the top left there, this was what's included in the grant. We were able to wrap it all in, because it's all supporting this new active development of the pickleball courts. So we propose to add a ADA crushed rock path in that northern segment that's still undeveloped, but then that'll allow us to add a rapid flashing beacon and a crosswalk across 146th Street, which we heard was a big issue for the public. We also plan to install a new picnic shelter, which is that big brown building there, right next to the existing parking. And then you can go on to the next slide. And this is where the new 8 courts are proposed here. There's one court that's an ADA pickleball court. So it's a little bit larger, has a little bit more space on the edges. We used the US Pickleball design guidelines and developed this site plan as a concept, a first phase. And so we're hoping to get a great ranking in the grant application. And, if this is something that Mill Creek finds that they can support and partner with the Snohomish County Parks, that would be something that we would love to hear more about. And I'll turn it over to Tom here. You can turn off the slides if you want, Adrian, and see if Tom has anything else to add here.
I thank you. For the record, Tom Tigan, Director of Conservation and Natural Resources for Snohomish County. Yeah, we have longstanding partnerships with the city of Mill Creek and actually all 19 cities and towns in Snohomish County. Snohomish County Parks has developed and maintained and operated sites together with our cities for, gosh, close to 4 decades now. And we do believe there's been a lot of interest in the Mill Creek community, particularly in South County. There also is quite a bit up in North County as well. So Arlington is trying to figure out a way to work with us up that way. But having Martha Lake Airport Park be available and close in within your MUGA, pretty accessible, already has parking. It just made a lot of sense for us to start working with you all and spending some time directly with the community. And listening sessions. And what we've heard is they would like at least 8 pickleball courts. Ultimately, they would love to have those be covered pickleball courts. In fact, they'd much rather have 40 covered pickleball courts somewhere, quite honestly. That being said, we think this is something that hopefully together we can work on and create a funding package, get after the grants. We really appreciate support in applying for grants. Look through other capital funds that are available through the county, potentially through the city, and quite honestly, even through the enthusiast groups, the folks that actually value pickleball and would like to see it expand here. And I know we have state legislators that are keenly interested in this and watching this. So all of that being said, we think this is a great spot to look at putting some courts and having to be very accessible for the Mill Creek community and South County area. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thanks, Mayor. Not a question, but just a couple of quick comments. We started talking pickleball, like I said in the beginning, a couple of years ago, and when we started talking about developing it right here in the city, most people in their smaller communities didn't want it because of noise, were uncertain because of lighting, because of traffic, and a myriad of things. And what this does is consolidates all that within our municipal urban growth area. County has been a fantastic partner with us over the years. I think Tambar Creek is a great example of that when we needed a dog park and that void was filled back then. So this opportunity exists now. And I was looking at the numbers. I think year to date, the county has given the city roughly $350K, and this is a yearly commitment for different projects. And so the opportunity to potentially partner with the county, I think, is nothing that we haven't done before. And if it helps in your decision in the future, if we are to annex, I think this location or towards I-5 is the most logical region that we would annex into. So I'll just leave it at that and leave it up for council consideration at some point. Thanks.
Councilmember Duque.
Thank you for coming. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else who's been here. I wrote a letter of support for this, so I appreciate all of you taking the time and coming here. This is something that I think is very much needed. I see that Pickleball Rick is on online, and he was my teacher this past May when I was taking my intro class. So it's nice. And so it's obviously a need in our community. And I appreciate you as a planner working through all the things you're doing, and especially in terms of grant funding. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem. I turn them
Oops,
off.
sorry,
I
you
got
did-
it. I'm
sorry.
in control.
I want to thank you for coming in and talking about this project. When I saw that you were taking asking for information on this and doing the surveys, I was really excited because we have had everyone coming in here asking about pickleball courts, and it's hard to find room or place, especially for multiple pickleball courts, because we're so built out already. So I was really excited. This is a great location and it's not on top of people so that the noise bothers them and we hear about it. So, and access to parking and restrooms and everything. So it's really a great location. I was really excited to be able to write your letter of support and look forward to hearing about the grant and how that comes back and getting an update on that. So I think the project's a really exciting project. So thank you for coming in tonight and talking about it.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for the presentation. We look forward to hearing what happens with the grant in a few months.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks. Deputy City Manager, our item of old business.
All right. Okay, I am here today to talk about the city's personnel manual and many of the city's policies. So we've been collectively updating these. Previous to this year, they have not been updated since before 2019. So we are looking at the city's personnel administration manual, policies and procedure manuals, procurement procedure manuals, the collective bargaining agreements and MOUs, civil service rules, the governance manual, and the police department policies. So we have $80,000 that was marked for this project through ARPA funding. And I believe it was in April of this year that we changed that to the RPB. So we moved that funding to the general fund when we moved the 18 ARPA projects. At this point in time, we are nearing completion for the project, but we are still short. So I am here today to ask for an additional 30,000 to complete the different manuals and police policies.
Councilmember Stecker, you have a question?
I just a real quick one. You mentioned the 80,000, right? And you're asking for another 30. But in the proposed motion, it asks for an additional 30 up to 120. So instead of 110, is that because you want?
That was a typo. I
Is it just,
apologize.
I
That
wasn't
was
sure
a
if you wanted to go
typo.
to 120.
No, that's
So
a typo.
you, if in reading this resolution, you just wanted to go additional 30,000 up to 110?
Yes.
Okay, great. Don't clarify that. Thanks.
Other questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Do we know, I just wrote myself, do we know, is this, will this finish it out or do you, okay, perfect.
Yes, and we're hoping it may not take that full 30,000, but I didn't want to have to come back again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Makes sense.
Other questions?
Mayor, I don't do this very often. Could I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to extend the engagement of Lane Powell PC for legal services associated with reviewing and updating the city's personnel administration manual, policies, and procedures manuals, procurement procedures manual, collective bargaining agreements and memorandums of understanding, civil service rules, governance manual, and police department policies, and appropriate an additional $30,000 up to $110,000 of general fund RPB project funding for the personnel manual and city policy review and update project.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Martin and Adrian, I'm not going to sign the form of resolution that's in the packet, so I'll wait for you to get me the corrected version that's got the correct amount.
Will do.
Now Deputy City Manager will take us into our new business.
All right, so all the way back in 2021, we began the collective bargaining process with the Guild for the 2022 through 2024 Guild CBA. Guild members voted to ratify the 2022 to 2024 Guild CBA in late January of 2024. And then since February, the city's been working with the Guild on an MOU to address police payroll issues brought up in the city's audit. The MOU approval will be considered by council following this agenda item. So at this time, the role of council in the collective bargaining process is to provide economic authority and ultimately to ratify or reject the proposed contract.
Do you have the motion for us? Sorry, I can't.
Adrian, can
Before
we
we,
get,
before we get to motion, are there any questions? Councilmember.
One question or
Paddock?
point of clarification, you'd mentioned the audit by the city. It was the audit by the state, correct?
yes, so the Washington State Auditor's Office, we were in the middle of our audit with them. And they brought these issues to us. And we did bring this forward on February 6th. But it was on February 6th that they brought this to our attention and said, hey, we really should be discussing this before you're approving this.
Got it. I just want to make sure, confirmed it was a state. Yep, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Okay, I'd like to move to approve a resolution authorizing and ratifying the city manager's execution of a collective bargaining agreement between the city of Mill Creek and the Mill Creek Police Officers Guild.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. New business item B.
All right. Yeah, it's me and Martin today. So January 24th was when the city and the guild reached the tentative agreement for contract negotiations for the CBA. And again, in the course of the annual audit, there were some problems identified with timekeeping practices in the police department. After discussions with the auditors, the city notified the guild the city could not move forward with the tentative agreement on February 6th. So to address the issues brought up by the auditors, an MOU was written up between the city and the guild. And the MOU that we'll be potentially approving today contains procedures for addressing any recommendations or findings from the auditors and will act as an addendum to the collective bargaining agreement. The city and guild have agreed to the attached MOU, and it will allow both parties to move forward with the approval of the 21 through 24 collective bargaining agreement. And the guild will be voting on the MOU this Friday, and the city will countersign if approved by council tonight.
Any questions? Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. So we approved the collective bargaining agreement. And so this is the cart or the horse now? Do they go together?
They go together.
Okay, so now if this isn't approved and ratified by the guild, then there's no collective bargaining agreement, correct?
Correct. So I will be coming back to you with an updated MOU at our
That's
possibly
why,
next meeting.
that's why I brought that up. Thank you.
Other questions,
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
please?
Introduce a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the city of Mill Creek and the Mill Creek Police Officers Guild that will act as an addendum to the 2021 through 2024 collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just real quick, maybe just something for those out there in the public. This is the meat and potatoes. I can honestly say it's never been about not wanting to pay our officers a fair rate. I think as a city, a small city in Washington State, we're a very competitively waged state for our staff, and sometimes the minutia is the holdup, and I'm glad we're rectifying that now. Thanks.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Martin.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the next item on the agenda is proposed new initiatives. So this came forward, Councilmember Paddock and I had a one-on-one, and we discussed a possible Safe Streets Committee, because currently we have that project, which is the Safe Streets for All grant, funded by the Safe Streets for All grant. It's by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Councilmember Paddock had an idea about bringing forward an advisory group that would actually provide an opportunity for council to review the inventory or the assessment of our city and kind of where things need to be addressed in terms of safe streets and from an infrastructure standpoint. The U.S. Department of Transportation there are certain components to the program. I think there are like 5 of them. One of those actually coincidentally is safer speeds as well. And I'll get back to that a little bit later, but it's brought to my attention today after we put this on the agenda that having community engagement throughout the process in the Safe Streets for All program, community engagement is a big piece of it. And so in that program, they were going to actually look towards creating an advisory committee anyway. And so changed a little bit of direction here. So we don't need council direction on creating that committee or moving forward with that because that's something that will be done. I just wanted to bring that up. But I thought it'd be a good opportunity, and Director Todd and his team also, just to kind of give you a glimpse of what the committee might be. And another thing I was thinking as well is the fact that there's that safer streets component to that grant, and the consultant that will be hired to do the assessment across the city will consider safety from a speeding standpoint as well to some extent. It won't be the main, as I understand, the main focus of those studies, but it will be a part of it. And so I know we have been in discussions about speed cameras and things that would address looking into whether we do have a speeding problem. So I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to align the Safe Streets for All program with the need to look at or research speed cameras as well and things of that nature. So the RFQ for the consultant that we will go out searching for to do this inventory will go out probably this month in June. And the advisory committee that we will develop will be probably fully constructed sometime in fall. So without taking any questions.
Questions? And just to clarify, this is not a council committee. This would be a broader
This
committee
is a
of
broader
council
community,
residents.
yeah,
Right.
composed of stakeholders, possibly one council member, maybe subject matter experts from each department, like police and public works and community members, maybe HOAs. If Councilmember Paddock had any suggestions or comments.
Would you like to speak to your new initiative, Councilmember Paddock?
My overtaken by events initiative, I think it sounds like, or overtaken by something was already, sounds like it was proposed by staff. I just think to kind of summarize how this came up and why this was brought up was obviously safe streets, and the topic thereunder has been of tremendous interest to the community. And it seemed that we should have a structured set of stakeholders that could participate in a way that's kind of durable through the duration of the effort, to have consistent input in that would augment any sort of surveys and whatnot. And that consistent input would come from a group of folks that would be the users of the streets, so to speak, public, the builders of the streets, obviously public works and whatnot, the people that keep the streets safe, public safety, and the folks that are maintaining the streets, as well as representation from the folks that are making policy around those streets. And if we had a committee that was like that, again, that was in place through the duration of this study, there could be some consistency in how those folks come together to determine what the objectives and outcomes would be of that study and next steps.
Councilmember Allison?
Yeah, so just to refresh my memory, we have some projects already on our CIP. Is this RFQ that you're going out for like the planning portion of those projects? I'm wondering what the timeline would be for the committee that is being formed.
I think Director Todd is itching to.
Would you like me to jump in there?
Yeah, jump in, go ahead.
So Robert Bean came to you a couple of weeks ago and got the permission to accept the grant. So we sent the paperwork back to the feds. Now we're waiting for them to give us the grant money. Once we got the grant money in hand, then we can advertise an RFQ to get a consultant to help us. Remember, we talked about 160 from us, 40 matching, and plus 40 from other capital programs. We got a budget of up to 240 to spend on that. That plan is really important to be able to go back and get federal money for safety related projects. And they're kind of a focus on Vision Zero, Target Zero, fatalities, serious accidents, those kinds of conflicts. And so this plan will be kind of a master plan for all kinds of transportation projects, both pedestrian, bike, people, and potentially speed cameras, as you said, whatever it is that they come back and say are the prioritized projects. So I think Councilmember Paddock proposed, and I think what lines up, one of the requirements in this grant is that you have to have engagement, outreach, and you have to have an advisory committee that sets policies. It suggests policies, and then those policies be adopted by the council to kind of set our path forward. You can't get any federal money unless you got all those things in place. So that's why this is nice. It really lines up with what we have to do for the grant to be eligible. Your question was, we have some things in our capital plan that are safety related. We might come back to you after we do this plan and say, you know, those are nice ideas, but that's not in the top 10. And we'll come to you in part of the CIP process and amend that CIP to say, here's the top 10 in terms of bang for the buck, the most safe for the dollars or the most impact on community. So those kinds of things. So this is really kind of some planning before we go do projects.
Councilmember Steckler?
Yeah, I just, my question was, how do I say this? I wanted to clarify and make sure that I'm not assuming something will be part of this advisory council's report. But one of the things I like is, am I right in assuming that this advisory group and this consultant will analyze the pros and cons of speed cameras, red light cameras in our city? Because I would love to have that information. We talked about it, but I think we really need to look at, like I say, both the pros and cons of doing it and why we should, maybe why we wouldn't. Am I writing too much into this, or is that going to be part of this analysis?
Well, yeah, I'll take a stab, but I think there are 5 components, and I have them right here. And what they are safer people, post-crash care, safer roads, safer vehicles, and as I mentioned, safer speeds. And so there's more breadth across kind of what they're going to analyze. It's mainly infrastructure and how to reduce, for example, speeds using stop signs or things of that nature, speed bumps, crosswalks and bike lanes and so forth. But you know, I think so it's not comparing technology. It's assessing kind of, and it may not be speed cameras. It could be other ways of reducing speed using technology maybe. But I think throughout the process, we can still align ourselves with kind of what they're working on, and council could still provide advisement to the consultant as well, kind of what our needs are, which may fall outside of what the consultant advises. As I mentioned in the agenda summary, one key piece of it is after they do take an inventory of what they believe we need to address safety based on their safe system approach, you'll have an opportunity to assess that inventory, prioritize, which we will need, because we're not going to be able to prioritize and assess all 100. We'll have one view of it, but we're going to need council to weigh in on that list and add things too. So, for example, if speed cameras are not on there, you can add them. Is that something that we feel is necessary outside of the study? So there's some flexibility across this as well.
Let me rephrase it then. We've had discussion about speed cameras and red lights, but we've not had a study session or any information on that. We were kind of waiting to have that. And last meeting, we talked about the other cameras, the block cameras. Thank you. And you know, one of the concerns I had was I'd like to have the other options out there as well as when considering this option. So could this committee, and maybe not, say, no, we better do something else, or could this committee actually put on its recommendations to analyze speed cameras and red light cameras in our city? Again, pros and cons of why we might want to or not want to proceed with them. Because I would like to move ahead on that issue one way or the other. I get a lot of pressure specifically for speed cameras from constituents.
Well,
for-
the state's analyzing based on their approach, which would be focusing on speed. So red light's not speed, I don't believe. And flock's not speed, so it would be something that would.
But to John's question, John, I think the committee can do whatever we charge it to do. And I think that's the challenge right now is in concept. I'm fully supportive of this, but we've got the bones, but not the meat. I'd like to have staff come back to us with a more definite proposal of how many members, how it's made of, what's the selection process, are we going to appoint it? And come up with a specific charter for what it is we want this committee to do so we can discuss that and define that. Because we could go round and round, what about this, what about that? No one knows right now. That's what we're trying to decide. Do we want to look at a proposal that puts that together and puts meat on it? Because one of the questions I had, are they reviewing projects that we start? Or are they like the A and B board that's out looking at ideas that they want implemented and bringing them to us? I'm not clear if that's part of their charter as well. So my suggestion would be we have staff come back with kind of a little more meat on the bones for, the concept is good. I think it's worthy, but at least that's where my head is at.
I agree on the concept, the advisory board concept is great, and I agree with you, Mayor. If we could come back with some meat on it, and those are two pieces of meat that I would like to see addressed in one way or the other, either yay or nay.
And then we can discuss what, if we want to move forward, what we want to charge this committee to do.
Right.
Councilmember Duque?
I love this idea, one, and I appreciate you bringing it up here and knowing it's part of it. Because for me, when we always talk about community engagement and we talk about the surveys and how we're not getting enough, responses, one of the great things about Arts and Beautification Board, our Planning Commission, our Design Review Board, Parks and Recreation, is that they're all individuals in the community who then can go back to their neighbors and their own network to talk about the things that they've heard about here. So that's that one-to-one, or that's close to touch as we can get. And I think it makes absolute sense with our engaged and connected community. The people of Mill Creek are actively engaged in the community and committed to making it a great place to live. So it fits in with exactly what we talked about. I'm gonna do it every time. Whenever we have something, I'm gonna link it. But my comment was gonna be exactly that. I would love to know more specifics about what the breakup is, or the breakdown of who, how we're getting the individuals. Is it something like an open call, like Arts and Beautification, where you just have to, be interested in this? Or does it need to be something more specific where they need to have, design, that there's like specific qualifications that you want? Or is there some people need to be that? Like there's some board members at large that aren't related to like anything in their career, that kind of thing. I'd love to know more about that and exactly that. What is their mission in their meetings that they're coming back to? Because I feel like, to me personally, that's where even when I was the chair and before that, when I was just on the board for Parks and Rec, it was at what point are we being brought in? When do you want our feedback? There's that, push and pull. And it would be great if we could start this, with whatever that charter is. So that was my comment. So just supporting the mayor and Councilmember Paddock.
Councilmember Cavallari?
Thanks, Mayor. And yeah, I think it's a worthwhile idea. I just didn't quite grasp the nuts and bolts of it as well. The way I read it is that the group was looking to prioritize Safe Streets funding. So maybe I read it wrong, but knowing more about what it would do and how it's supposed to work and where all the parts go would be helpful. And secondly, this might help some of the discussion. We keep talking about speed cams and traffic light cams and the city council, just as an FYI, so everybody knows, we don't just get to go say that, hey, on 35th and 132nd, there's been a couple of accidents there. I want cameras there or I want videos there. It doesn't work like that. There has to be a traffic impact study. There has to be safety studies for each individual camera that you put up, if I'm not mistaken, unless the process has changed, Chief. And you have to show and prove a higher level of contagion with each individual area. So it's not just let's go plug some cameras. We keep talking about it and I get it and I'm with you, but it's a little more involved. I think that's why the mayor said it's a minimum 12 to 18 month process with each component. So just throwing that out there. Thanks.
Other questions, comments? Do you have enough direction to bring back to us a little more meat?
Plenty, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. We have no study sessions tonight. We have no consent agendas. That brings us to a report, City Manager.
Yeah, a few reports, had a quarterly meeting with our presenter, Lois Langer-Thompson, last quarter, which when I already knew she was going to retire, but probably our last quarterly report, so it was good to see her again. Also wanted to just have just the staff reports. On Monday, we had 2 employees, well, 1 employee start, Reese Habaday, who's a surface water program coordinator, so we're happy to have him. Also, we started a contractor with the same type of position as our current staff. Sue White is on a temporary basis. We have her for at most up to 6 months, helping out marketing communications. So her title also is a marketing communications recreation program coordinator. So we're happy to have her help out with the marketing team. We have an offer letter signed. Leah Holmes, will be our city clerk. She'll be starting sometime soon. I don't know the exact date, but I think within a week or 2.
Great.
So, and those are in my report. I'll hand it over to our finance director for the financial report. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, council members. The financial report begins in stamp page 106 of 139 of your agenda packet. So our economic indicators remain stable. The Seattle metro area consumer price index remain at 4.4 over the last 6 months. And the federal funds rate remain at 5.25% to 5.5%. For the 16 months, our benchmark is at 67%. And then on stamp page 8 of your agenda packet reflects the general fund revenues and expenditures. Our revenues collected, we have revenues collected for the period is at $15.4 million, or 65% of the adjusted budget. It is below the benchmark. On stamp page 132, the sales tax data represents 39% of our biennium budget, and it shows that the March 2024 sales transactions posted a decline of 1%, of less than 1%, although our accommodations and food services have increased year over year. That increase was not substantial enough to cover the decreases in the other categories. Also, we have indications that since November and December of 2023, that sales tax collection have started to decline. Our expenditures are at 12.1 million spent without the one-time or net of the one-time ARPA funding for public safety, salary, and overtime. And if we didn't have that one-time funding from ARPA, we would be at $14.9 million spent, or 63% of the adopted budget. And so as a reminder that the revenues that you're seeing also includes the one-time transfers from the ARPA funds for the investment earnings. And so we think that the revenues will not be able to sustain us in the next coming biennium. And so there will be tough choices. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And also we have provided breakdown of the property tax and the sales tax rate categories by the taxing agency so it gives us a little bit more perspective of what is the city's portion of those taxes. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? I appreciated the breakdown that I saw in the materials for the property taxes, as I had friends over at our cabin this weekend and we had a spirited discussion about property taxes. And it reminds me of how disinformed the public generally is about what their taxes are, how they're calculated, and where they go. So I'm glad that we're able to get information out there to help educate people about the tax system because it's complex. Councilmember Steckler?
I just wanted to make sure, I don't know if we actually talked about, I'm looking for the actual chart here, but in the Finance Committee's review, yeah, here it is. I just wanted to comment on the results of the staff's focus on our legal expenses. And I remember very well how when we hit a high of almost 1.7 million calendar year 2020, how exorbitant that was and what a challenge that was. And because of the focused effort of the staff, I mean, I've watched the decreases in 21, 22, 23. And as of right now in 24, I think we're at 313,000 and halfway through it, or actually not halfway through, but a little bit, maybe a third of the way through. Chances of us coming in underneath 2023's number of 934 is very, very possible, very probable. And the assistant city manager is committed to keeping that focus and continuing this. And I like to recognize when I see something that was extremely well done with a focused effort. You can control your legal expenses. You can and this is all citywide. This is not, certain areas. This is everything, every nickel. And that is something that savings has come right back to our city in additional funds to be used for expenditures and such. So really great job on staff's part. And I'm sure that goes beyond just, assistant city managers focused and finance directors focused, but also the department heads focus. Each of the department heads focus on their individual area. I thought that was a really nice win, and I just wanted to recognize that. Thanks.
Councilor Paddock.
Thank you, the finance director, for the heads up on where we're kind of going as far as a divergence between the revenue and the expenses so early this year. So as we're starting to make decisions over the next 7 months, understanding the direction we're going is not a positive direction when it comes to the split between revenue and expense. And hopefully maybe next month we'll get another update on is that gap widening or shrinking, and what that might look like towards the end of the year. Because I think if we can get a number on that, hey, we're going to be $1 million short. I'll just make it up, $1 million short. That might give us some clarity when folks come up with funding requests. How does that request fit with the $1 million shortfall, as an example? And how are we going to step up to close that shortfall? Thank you.
Councilmember Steckler.
We had a really good discussion on this, and for the rest of the council's benefit, we're in great shape right now. This is not the issue, but by analyzing the numbers and the direction where the savings came from, it led us to the reality of, okay, well, if expenses continue, revenues are not going to continue from the same sources. So we do need to start looking at other economic sources, or, in other words, unfortunately, some cutbacks is not cutting your budget is not the way to make a balanced budget. It's always better when we have the revenues to pay for everything that we want and need. And so this is just like that advance notice way before it's very proactive as opposed to reactive. In the past, I've sat up here and been very surprised by financial numbers. There was never any discussion, and all of a sudden I'm looking at graphs where we were in trouble, and we are not in trouble. I just want to make sure the record's clear on that. This is just a really good way, solid way of managing this economic machine that we have, which is Mill Creek City expenditure. So yeah, it's nothing wrong, just a really great opportunity to start looking now before we actually need it. So we don't need it right now, but we will need it in the future.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councilmember Steckler and both Councilmember Paddock have alluded to this. I think for me, that this drives home that we really need to focus on economic vitality. I had to try to think about what we named it, because I wanted to say economic development. So that we have got to be working on that piece. It really needs to be rising to the top. And we really need to be thinking about strategically about where we're spending and what we're spending our money on, because we're going to have to make some serious decisions coming up for next year. And so we really need to be looking at the full picture of what's coming and planning accordingly and finding ways to bring in more revenue. It's imperative if we want to keep providing the service to the city that we would like to give them and that they expect us to give them. So I think that to me is the main point of all this. Thanks.
Other questions? Anything further? City Manager?
I'll just make a few comments. I respect all the feedback on kind of where we stand and kind of the need to start to forecast kind of what's going to happen in the future. And I could tell you that we got here to this point for a reason, and that's because we were very prudent, I think, moving in the past and all the decisions we made in terms of how we've utilized our funds to acquire, services, consultants, even the equipment, even the staffing additions, which is, as you know, is our biggest cost. I think we've done a good job of ensuring that we've made some good decisions, but we've made some mistakes, of course, in the past in hiring, and we're starting to move forward. I think the trend is up, but I just wanted to emphasize that we're still building that baseline, and we're still that foundation from which I think is going to set us moving forward. And I think we're still making those tweaks. Even internally, we're going to have to make probably some changes in terms of how we move responsibilities around to address the changes that are going to happen. It can be happening moving forward. For example, I brought forward an idea about the community development and planning director, but that's going to take time to hire too. So just to let you know, staff, we're going to start adjusting responsibilities a bit in the short term to accommodate the needs to address these projects that we have moving forward. At the same time, we'll be making harder decisions also on which projects we need to punt till next year as well. And so I'll be talking with the leadership team more about that. Don't be too worried. It's not gonna be a lot of projects. Just a few things that we need to be more realistic about what we can or can't do this year. And I'm getting more of a sense of that as we start to get into the DRCC project and with the sub area, the presentation that Clay gave us recently. And so I'm just worrying we're going to hit a point where we're not going to have a capacity to do things. So we'll make some hard decisions in the near term to figure out kind of what our capacity and project gaps lie. So thank you.
Councilmember Steckler.
In on this discussion, which is a great discussion for us to have, one of the areas of opportunity here is annexation. But it's one of those that it's a big decision, and it's one we kind of put off a lot. It's what do they call that? The ball you kick down the street. I think it would be a good idea, a prudent idea to, that's one of the projects that we talked about in our strategic vision was coming up with, and maybe by a certain date, we could say, let's come up with the evaluation criteria that we all agree on, what makes sense to do annexation, so that then we could look at some various annexation opportunities and see if they meet those goals and can they provide, because some annexation could put us deeper in the hole, as we all know, and some annexation opportunities could help provide some additional, revenue streams through business property tax, sales tax, especially sales tax. So I think we might want to, I am suggesting it might be a very good idea to let's get that criteria decided upon by a date that we could be prepared to use that if we find ourselves in an economic need. We may want to move ahead with an annexation opportunity. So I just want to make that as a suggestion.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. Maybe I'll just chime in on this now. And I've had several discussions with the city manager and in our discussions with DRCC and funding sources in the future and whatnot. And I don't know if it's as good a time as any to maybe talk about it, but just throw it out there so everybody can absorb it. The thought of creating what I called a metropolitan park taxing district along Both Leopard Highway from 132nd down to 164th was an idea where the end users would be pretty much footing the bill for whatever we decide to do there. So there are funding sources, and I have a quasi presentation ready to go at some point, but I guess since we're having the discussion tonight, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Thanks.
Anything else on the reports? I think that's a topic for future discussion. Let's come up with a plan for DRCC and then figure out how to pay
No other
for it.
reports, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I got four things I wanted to cover. First, I'll be having lunch tomorrow with the South County mayors and I'll report back the next time I'm here on anything comes out of it. Second, I look forward to seeing a few of you, I think, at the elected officials reception for MBA on Thursday at Craven Farms. Third, I hope no one objects, but I made a request to the city manager. Out in the lobby, we have pictures of the four of us individually, which is appropriate because we're all elected in. But I was impressed, and I think everyone else was, by the photo that was taken of us at the memorial. And so I've asked the city manager to include out there a picture of the group. I thought it was a great picture. We function as a group, not just as individuals. So I've asked for the city manager to pull that together. And then I need to take a couple minutes to comment on the pickleball proposal we talked about or heard about earlier. First, just a little clarity on this partnership with the county before on Tambark Park. That partnership was the county acquired the property, I believe in mid-90s, about 95. And I don't remember the dollar figure involved, but they came to the city and asked for a quarter of the participation in the land acquisition costs. That was the extent of the city's involvement. When the county bought that property, they acted like a government, not a private developer. They bought the property and didn't do much due diligence because when they bought it, they had visions of building 10 or 15 courts or fields on that property. And they didn't do a wetlands assessment before they bought it. And lo and behold, when they did the wetlands assessment, there was room for what we have now, one field, and we're able to fit a dog park in the other areas. The city did not participate one dime in the development of that park, and the county didn't either. The county got the funding for developing Tambark Park through the settlement with King County siting of the Brightwater sewage plant, where they got, I believe, 85 million bucks. Part of which was used for Tambark Park, a part of it was used for Miners Park up on 228 to the top of the hill and various other parks. So I just want everyone to be clear of the partnership. I mean, we were asked to participate financially in the acquisition, which we did, and that was the extent of our involvement. When it comes to pickleball, I don't deny there's a demand. It's a great project. It's a great location. The city should fully support the county's efforts to get the grant funding. But I am very cautious when we're asked to contribute financially to it. As Councilmember Cavalieri pointed out, that is in our annexation area. The county is also likely to upzone that property to medium density. And I hear frequently from our residents how they hate the look of the development outside the city. So if the county is interested in agreeing to apply our development standards in that area, if we were to participate financially, maybe I'll think about talking about it. But the second point, and is the more important point, and this gets to the comment Councilmember Duque made earlier. I hope that the first question each and every one of us asks when we're presented with one of these is, how does it fit in with a strategic plan? We spent an hour plus last week talking about whether flock cameras was within our strategic plan, and I think it squarely fits into our strategic priority for technology to promote public safety. I look at this project outside the city that is not part of our corporate limits right now, and I'm not clear personally how this fits in with our strategic plan in light of the skepticism I heard from the dais on funding flock cameras that the police department has recommended we consider. So this isn't to be a debate on it. It's just simply, as Councilmember Duque said, I hope we always use that strategic vision as the first question in the lens through which we look at any of this, whether it's flock cameras, traffic cameras, whether it's participating and giving money or contributing to a project outside the city. So that was all. I felt I wanted to say that about pickleball. I don't deny there's a demand. I heard about it all weekend from friends. They drank the Kool-Aid or whatever they drink when they play pickleball. So anyway, that's the extent of my report. And Mayor Pro Tem, I may or may not be filling in for me next week. I'll be in DC and I'm not sure with the time change if I'll be able to participate remotely or not. So I've got to figure that out. So with that, Mayor Pro Tem, any report?
Thank you, Mayor. I went to the Puget Sound Regional Council annual meeting down in Seattle, and it was actually a quick, efficient meeting. It didn't go as long as we were supposed to be there, so that's always exciting. And the main thing we did that meeting was we basically we reelected the the president and vice president. So the mayor, Mayor Becky Erickson of Paulsbo is going to remain the president. And Snohomish County Executive Dave Summers, our very own, is going to remain the vice president. So that's your update on the excitement and anticipation of that item. And also Congressman Rick Larson was the main speaker, and he came and he talked to us about the infrastructure for transportation that they're talking about. And he also mentioned the safe streets money. And one of the things that was really that they hit upon, and I asked us to put the PowerPoint in the packet so all of you can take a quick look at it if you want to. It's not very long. They're really discussing in the state how fatalities have went up on our streets, and really wanting to dive into doing the work on figuring out why, because they've grown more than they should. Yes, we've gained new residents, but the numbers of fatalities have gone up higher than what just the numbers of new people would anticipate, and they're not entirely sure why, I don't think fully. So they're wanting to look into that. And so I added that PowerPoint just for you all to look at, because I just thought those numbers were a little bit interesting. So that's in there for you to look at. And then one other thing, I'm just going to throw this out here in my report, and then I'll swing back the proper way. I'm going to bring up possibly coming to council with a new initiative to kind of look at how we handle how the code and how we handle things on the streets, because on the sidewalks and cleaning, and with residents owning what comes up to the sidewalk and being for certain areas, and they're supposed to clean things, because I'm really bothered and frustrated with how some things look. And so I don't know, I'm just gonna bring up as a new initiative for everybody, see if anybody's interested in looking forward on what maybe, if does something need to change, or is there something else we need to do? And so I just want to give you guys a heads up that I'll be bringing that as a new initiative to see if we have 4 bobbleheads, as we used to say, to look at that. And so that's all I've got. And that's it.
Councilman Cavalier.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick comment to your comment. For pickleball, and I don't play it, so I don't have a dog in the fight. It's more of a citizen need. So whether it's purchasing the land or participating in the development, it's still a partnership, tomato type thing. And I think the huge difference between this and Flock were one-time costs potentially and ongoing costs. So I'll just throw that out there so you can think about that. But also my comments tonight are more of a personal nature. Had the use of 911 South County Fire come to my home to assist and take my wife on an emergency basis. They were there in just a little over 4 minutes, which is absolutely incredible response time. And I'm grateful to them. I'm also grateful to Police Chief Stan White for going to my home and securing it. And that service that you don't always hear about, but let me tell you, it meant a lot, and it still does. Thanks.
Councilor Steckler.
Few quick things, just comments, because I wanted to comment on your comment, Mayor, and I appreciate your comment about the pickleball. I'm not quite sure if there was funding being asked from us on that project, but I think the bigger question you brought up, and I think it's a core one, is the strategic principles. And I actually, when I saw this coming on the agenda, I saw the pickleball fields as, wow, this is great. We get all these fields. Land is a rarity in Mill Creek, and we don't have to give up any of our land in Mill Creek. But our citizens can come down and play pickleball. And to me, community engagement is getting our people out of their homes and down into town center, or into a pickleball court, into wherever it might be. But they're getting engaged with each other there. So I supported that because it is engagement, and it allows us to continue to do some other things that we want to do. But you brought up a good point. Do we financially support something that is outside of our city limits? I don't have an answer or an opinion on that yet, but I do like the idea of providing a solution. It's another thing that I get hit on besides speeding is the pickleball question. So Good comment to bring up. I do like it. I didn't see him asking us for money, but maybe I'm just very naive at this point that they're gonna come and ask for money, you know?
Let me interject really quick. I was under the impression that the grant they had applied for was gonna cover 100% of the cost, and that they would be coming looking for contributions if they didn't get the full grant. So I
kinda read that into it, yeah.
I was a little surprised when I saw that the grant doesn't fund the whole project and that they're gonna be coming to us.
Yeah, there's a little red line on one slide where something about Mill Creek's involvement. So
Right.
it wasn't physically asked, but it kind of assumed. So, but anyway, let's wait and see if we get to that point. But I do like the idea of getting our citizens engaged. The other thing I wanted to, two more things real quick, sidewalk responsibility. And I was talking with Mayor Pro Tem on this and it kind of clicked on me when some of us live up in the MCCA development and they sent out their annual notice and everything. But one of the things they talked about was responsibility of the sidewalks to MCCA residents. You as a resident are responsible for your sidewalk. You're responsible for cutting back vegetation. You're responsible for pressure washing it so it's not slimy or slippery. But it is not, I was kind of surprised when they said it's not the HOA who is responsible for that, but it's us that are responsible for it. So I don't know how that relates to the city, but I just thought it was an interesting one because it is an ongoing challenge of, I do think our sidewalks need to be clean, safe, and trimmed back. That's, but the question does come up, is it the residents' responsibility, is the cities? And I just thought I would bring that up because the HOA said if you don't do it, they'll do it, but they will assess put a lien on the property for the cost to have that done. I thought that was interesting. Last gasp, I've been thinking, I like when we bring an idea to the council and we debate it like we did those flock cameras. And I did think about them over the week since the last time we met. And I'm still in the same realm that, and maybe I'm wrong, but and I've been known to be, but to me, a flock camera is a great technology for a large city because it alerts them to someone and it gives the police a chance to get to them. And my concern still was, and I mentioned it, the flock camera's ability to notify us instantaneously, great. But by the time we pursue, they'd probably be out of our city limits. And then the question is, do we want our police going outside the city limits? If there's a life in danger, kidnapping, I go, absolutely. But, for a stolen car, probably not. So I do like the idea of technology. And I know I keep bringing up red light and speed cameras. And I'm sorry if I'm a broken record, but I do think in my heart that is a solution to the violators. I'm not looking at it as a revenue. I'm looking to take violators out of the option. It's not a good city. Mill Creek's a bad city to actually, because of our vagrant laws. It's a bad city to pop up a tent. There's better places to go. I'd like to speed this, that we're a bad city to speed through on one of our main arterials. I do think that the red lights offer, there's a lot of accidents, and I read the Mayor Pro Tem's report before about the accidents, and I thought, gee, if we could do something to make our streets safer, have people stop speeding, have people stop running through red lights. And when people do run through a red light, unfortunately, they speed up and to try and get through, and they're committed to that. And sometimes that light turns red and they go through it, but the other lights turn green, that person goes through it, and we get some horrific accidents. So if it's as well trained as you are in some cities to look for cameras, you're not going to run a red light if they got a camera sitting up there because you're really toast. They're going to track you down with your driver's license and send you that bill, that ticket in the mail. So I don't know if I have all the answers. So I would love to have a study session. I sense that there's some reluctance to them. I'd like to have that out in the open and have that information presented, because maybe I'm wrong and this isn't the right solution. So I'm putting that plea out there that we're talking about a request for something that will save lives. And I want to
We gave that direction to council several months ago for them to go forward and look at what it would take to implement traffic safety cameras throughout the city. That's already underway.
I haven't seen anything.
I
I've
know
made
we
the
haven't
request a
been
number of
brought back
times.
to us, yes, but we had that discussion and gave that direction to staff to put that together. It just hasn't been brought back to us on an agenda yet.
And I have a right to be that squeaky wheel until I see it. So I just want to make that be that squeaky wheel. Thank you.
So squeaked. Councilmember Alice.
No report, but I will be attending council virtually as I will be working in California. At least I'm in the same time zone next week, but won't be here in person.
Councilmember Duque?
Today I had a Mill Creek Chamber Board meeting. And so just wanted you to know, they're working really hard on the Mill Creek Festival. A lot of things going there, and then all the things that take a part on it. And I'm sure Councilmember Paddock is going to talk about the run that's happening. But that was also discussed at the meeting. And for those of you who were interested in that Mill Creek Handmade event that was supposed to be on June 2nd, it was canceled due to the rain. So if you had gone out and you hadn't seen on social media, they have their own Instagram handle. I don't think it's a Twitter handle. I have to remember which one it is. So you can follow there, but they're hoping to reschedule it. And so when I find that date, they hoped for this month, but I'll share it with you guys when it's available. And then I'll flag also for our city so that they can share any social media there. That's it.
Thanks. Councilmember Paddock?
I will report on the run that's happening Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. Sunny Mill Creek Town Center. It's going to be full of little runners of all shapes and sizes and families. It's the Girls on the Run Celebration 5K, in case you haven't remembered that from the last 7 times I brought it up. 1,300 runners so far. Another 100 have signed up just this week. There has been amazing economic vitality, business support. Starbucks has said, hey, I can't believe they're not coming past our store, the one that's over 164th. And that didn't come from me. That actually came from another shop owner. But Quest is excited. They're offering discount to runners. The Lodge is offering things. Brooklyn Brothers offered a little spiff this evening for anybody that came in that was signing up for their bib and whatnot. LA Fitness thought it was a great idea. Bar 3, which I understand is something that is an exercise thing. And I just want to say that the group that put this on called out specifically Councilmember Duque, the president of the chamber, Greg Elwin, and Director John Ritter about, it's not John Ritter.
Jeff.
John Ritter's the.
The Threes.
Yes, exactly. And Three's Company in that one as well. So Director Ritter for their tremendous support, as well as Scott and Jody and Chief White for all the support in getting this ready to get done. It should just be an awesome event for the city. And again, thank the department, thank the city for all the support.
Items communication. Seeing a nod of heads negative. Anyone online like to address the council? We have no executive sessions tonight, so we have nothing further on our agenda. So if there's no objection, I'll adjourn the meeting at 7:27 without a motion to extend.
The key is that how long we're gonna be tonight, to just say, you know, I don't know, because whenever I say it won't be long, I just. Yes, because that's what I said.
I always say when I say seems like a short.
I know, every time I think